Harold in charge, okay? Because Anthony's a mess. But you know your children, and I'll just speak personally. When my mom had been sick for years, and it was 4 of us. My youngest brother, they started talking to us about a living will. My youngest brother said, if the doctor say living will to me one more time, she gonna need a living will. My oldest brother checked out. He said, I'm not gonna watch my mama die. Me and my middle brother, Reginald, the no-nonsense kind of brother who never gonna say I love you, but he shows it in so many ways. Mama would get sick, I'm crying. He said, stop that crying, you don't have time. Get dressed, get her dressed, we gotta move. That's the child you put in charge. When they called me from dialysis and said, my mom said enough, I'm coming home. I said, she going to the hospital, she gonna have surgery again, He said, go to the dialysis. If she does not want to go, bring her home, and we'll deal with it from there. That's the child you want to put in charge. That's the one who is going to keep his calm. He loves his mom. He sees her suffering, and he's willing to step up and do the right thing. That's the child. That's the friend. That's the cousin, if you don't have anybody else, that you want to make these decisions for you. So there are a few things, not just in emergency, Sister Carolyn. Every time you go to the hospital for any procedure, any reason, we ask, do you have a living will? We ask that you bring it with you so that we can put a copy on file. If you end up at Methodist, you end up at Baylor, you end up at Parkland, we have the same information. We have the same communication systems. We want to honor your wishes. We just want to make sure we have the right information. So just know that it's a question that gets asked. I ask it all day for 12 hours when I'm at work. Do you have a living will? Oh, no. Then who can make a decision for you in case of an emergency? That is a question you're going to get asked every time you go to any kind of medical facility, because we need to know that information. We want you to, life happens. It really does. And when it happens, my mom did some things for us toward the end. She made the decision. She took herself off of dialysis. She said, I'm not living a quality of life anymore. I'm not going to get my healing on this side, but I'm going to my healing on the other side. So our mom made that decision for us. My mom also went to the funeral home, made her own funeral arrangements. To this day, I laugh about Sheila. She even told Sheila what song to sing. When I see Jesus, amen. Sheila say, well, but White said, I said, well, if Betty said do it, you better do it. That's when it's time to make those decisions for the people that you love the most, because we are in our worst conditions when you leave this world. And that's why we're having this today. Thank y'all so much for your questions. Yes, ma'am. Because it is a hard thing, and you see some horrible stuff. I'm on the ethics committee at Baylor, and there are some horror stories because children will fuss and fight. They'll beat up the doctor. We have to call the police, all of these things because they can't make. Some of them don't have enough sense to make the right decisions, and you already know that. So you need to take care of your children before you leave here. All right.
Thank you so much. Haven't we been encouraged to make the right decision? Okay. Our next speaker will be up shortly, but I just wanted to remind you that you do have a resource sheet in your folder, resources for legal consultation and service, and I believe these are free services that you have available to you. And the other thing is I would like for you to look in your folder, find your evaluation sheet. You have already heard 2 of our speakers. So I would like for you right now to take out that sheet and answer the questions that apply to those particular speakers. And now we have our last speaker who's coming up. And Sister Funda Boyd is going to introduce her.
Good morning, family. Good morning. This has been quite a delightful event in the caliber of people that have presented to us. I mean, God is doing what he does. He's always amazing, and he shows out when he shows up, and he's always up. So I want to thank y'all for putting this on. It was very needed. We've been talking about this at work in different areas, different friend groups, so it was definitely needed. And I thank you for putting it on and putting the caliber of people on that has presented to us. And none the least, this lady, she is very, very sweet. I met her at the International Leadership Summit. I called a friend and I said, we need somebody to present on insurance. He said, I got the right person for you. And the irony is that we were both at the same place. She was investing in herself. She was at the International Leadership Summit. So I'm very proud and honored to present her and to introduce her. I'm going to read her bio as it is because I don't want to miss anything. It says, Lady Elizabeth Smith was born and raised and educated in the city of Fort Worth, Texas. She graduated from the University of North Texas with a bachelor's degree in strategic management and entrepreneurship. She also obtained her e-commerce certification from Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. Elizabeth entered the insurance and financial service arena in 2001, working with American Express Financial Advisors. Later, she joined forces with Northwestern Mutual Insurance Company, where she served a plethora of business owners and grew her practice even more. In 2009, she shifted to become a licensed banker and financial specialist for Bank One, Chase, and later, Wachovia Bank. After serving many years in the banking system, Elizabeth was led to branch out and open her own Allstate agency. With the expansion of her portfolio of services, she was able to reach many more families and businesses to make a positive impact in their lives. As time would progress, she decided to take the limits off and go independent so that she could serve and help more people. This is when the insurance lady was born. She built her own agency from scratch and partnered with only excellent rating companies to build a solid organization that her customers could trust. Her agency aids in all types of insurance and in retirement planning. She is a modern-day Joseph with a mission to help everyone understand the urgency of protecting what's important to them. She follows the leading of God so that when there is a famine, they, her customers, can have plenty. Lady Elizabeth isn't just knowledgeable on the financial side. The source of her strength is her faith and relationship with the Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Elizabeth accepted Christ in her life at the age of 12, filled with the Holy Ghost at the age of 15, and has been running for Jesus ever since. She loves God and is dedicated to preaching, teaching, and living the gospel. At this time, I present to you Miss Lady Insurance, Miss Elizabeth.
Good morning, everybody. I'm glad to be here, and I certainly have enjoyed everything that my ears have heard. And I just appreciate this church and everyone for just opening this space up because this is so needed. And thank you, Fonda, for just being who you are. And God is so ahead of us. He has a way of doing things. Because when we got connected, like she said, we were both investing in ourselves. And she said, can I call you at this time? I'm at a meeting. And I said, she's at a meeting? Let me just find out. Would you just so happen to be at the International Leadership Conference? And she said, yes, absolutely. And I'm like, okay. So we decided to meet up there. And it's just been a divine connection. And so I applaud you for having this space open, because we have failed for the lack of knowledge. And just on today alone, so many good seeds have been planted. So I'm hoping that we would just branch out and do more of this and in more communities, because it is so needed. And again, thank you for inviting me to come to share. I am the insurance lady, and I take pride in educating people in the areas of insurance. Many of us have insurance on certain things because it's mandated that we have it, but we definitely need to make sure that we have it and protect what's important to us. How many of y'all have a phone? Most of us don't leave home without it, right? How many times have you actually said, oh, I forgot my phone, and turned around and went back and got it? Like, this phone is really connected to us. And a lot of us actually pay to have our phones insured, because we pay so much money. If you got a certain type of phone, you put a lot of money into it. And you pay to have insurance on that phone. And the purpose of insurance in general is to put you back where you were after an event, a tragedy or something has happened. The insurance is supposed to put you right back where you were. Now, we know that if you break your phone or something happened to it, you say, well, I got insurance on it, and you expect for them to either get you a new phone or, again, put you back in action from where you were. It's the same with any type of insurance. It's supposed to put you back. Now, of course, we understand and know that you can't bring a life back. And our life is invaluable. We can't put a dollar sign on how much your life is worth. But having a proper plan in place is so important to have, because like everything we heard today, if you don't have a proper life insurance plan in place at the time of death, it can be detrimental to your family and loved ones. And I'll just back up and tell you a little bit about myself and how I even got into this industry. My father was an entrepreneur. He had a pallet company that was very successful. If you don't know what pallets are, it's those wood things, yeah, that they stack things on. And so he started out, doing his pallet company. I remember him coming home and telling my mom, I'm going to branch out and I'm going to start my own business. So that was a change for us. I'm the youngest, and my mother has been a homemaker all of my life. So my father worked diligently with his pallet company, but not only that, he was a man of faith and actually had 2 churches. So 2 churches alone is a lot to deal with, and then a pallet company. So he was very busy. He had the church in Bonham, Texas, if anyone knows where that is. And then in '96, God led him to open up a church in Fort Worth called New Beginning. Okay, so little did we know that we all was about to have a new beginning, because God called him home in '97. Okay, so with that being said, with him being an entrepreneur and knew a lot of people in ministry, 2 churches on the go, it's sad to say, but I'm just going to speak the truth. At the time of death, yes, ma'am, you got it right. At the time of death, he did not have an active life insurance policy in place. Now, keep in mind, I'm the youngest of the clan, okay? My father has 9 children, and I was the youngest, okay? So, again, my mother had been a homemaker all of my life, and at that time, of course, he had money. It took care of some things, but that ain't gonna last forever, okay? So we went through a process and where the age that my mother was, because people thought, well, she'll get Social Security. She wasn't getting anything because she was too young. There is an area where you just ain't gonna get nothing. So she didn't get Social Security. She literally had to go back and start working. After 35 years of not working, of how many, actually, I'll put it this way. I know at least 21 years of not working. She had to go and pick up and get a job. So that alone was different. I was a sophomore in college, so from being in college and doing what I do, having to be in line for financial aid and student loans and whatever I can do to get through the rest of the school year. So needless to say, I had a passion in my heart to help people learn about this. to help people in leadership learn about this, how important it is. Because a lot of times the problem, just like we found out today, is because we don't know. And we go off of what we've heard, and we go off of what people have said, and we go off of how we feel, and the myths grow faster than the truth. How many of y'all know that? The stuff get out. It's like, where'd you hear that from? You know, who told you that? I don't know, but this was where I feel. And so because of that, we make decisions based on that. And that's why God has appointed certain ones of us to open up our understanding to the truth so that we can make informed decisions. Having life insurance is not too expensive. It's not, we're going to dig in it a little bit more, but just know that some of the myths that's out there, because some people actually believe they can't get it because of certain health issues. They say, well, I can't get life insurance, but you can. There's different types, and we'll dig in a little bit more. But I just wanted to tell you where my passion comes from and why I, that trusted person and my team and others, I'm not the only one, trusted people are out here that can actually tell you what's available, talk to you about your own personal situation so that you can put a proper plan in place. Because it's not a cookie cutter type of thing. There's all different types of insurance, and we will dig in a little bit on it. I will tell you that, did you pass those out? Okay, so those things that were passed out to you, feel free to check them out. I heard the sister before me talk about writing it down. This is a tool that I'm giving to everyone for free. Write it down. Let it be known what you want. And this will be something that will help to jog your thoughts, because sometimes you're like, I don't know what to think. What else should I write down? This tool that you have is for you to write down what you want to happen, a place where you can write down things that are important to you, and the people that need to have this are the people that you're going to trust to help when things do happen in your life. Okay, and on the back of there, it is a QR code. If you need to and want to get on my calendar for a one-on-one, we definitely can do that. I have another QR code. I'm just putting it out here. I don't know how to else share it but on my tablet, but if there's a way that you can take a picture of this QR code, it's a little questionnaire. If you want more information, I'm going to just hit certain types of insurance, but if you want more information, you want a policy review, you have specific questions about your current situation, a family member, please fill out this this form, and it'll tell me what more that you want to talk about. Okay, and I'm about to put that up, and you can let me know if you can see it. And I don't know if you want to have it held a certain place or. Okay, you gonna hold it? Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Okay. All right, so one of the questions that I normally get all the time is on life insurance. They ask me about which one is better. Is whole life better than term life insurance? And at the end of the day, when a person passes, the funeral director is not concerned if this was whole life, term, universal life, or index universal life. They're not concerned about that. They want to know that you have an active life insurance policy that's been paid and is in force, that's going to pay them. So there are several types of insurance, but they're not concerned. It's based on your current situation, on what's best. When you are seeking out for someone to communicate with on help about your insurance plan, make sure that they're able to offer you a variety of things, not just one. Because what I've learned over a course of time is that people offer what, that's the best thing is what they offer. So if they only sell term insurance, then they're going to convince you that term insurance is the absolute best insurance for everybody. And that's not necessarily the case. If they only sell permanent insurance, then they're going to fight and argue that permanent insurance is the only way to go. But we take a different approach, and we see what your situation is, and we discuss your options so that you can make an informed decision. You may need a combination of both. And yes, you can have more than one policy. Another question that came up before in a different talk is about beneficiaries. It goes inside with some of the things that you guys had talked about before about having that person that will do the right thing for you. What a lot of people didn't realize is that whoever you put down as beneficiary, they have the rights to the funds amongst when you pass. That does not mean that they're going to take care of your final expenses. I'm going to say that again. Just because they're the beneficiary does not mean that they're going to take care of your final expenses. We all need to be made aware of that. So when you're putting people down, and I want Pookie and Ray and Sean and Keisha and whoever else you want to put down, Elizabeth, I want you to be right. Whoever you put down, make sure that you are putting down someone, especially if your insurance is for final expense. Now, you can use insurance for a variety of things. There's insurance to pay off your mortgage. Should you die and you still owe on your home, you can have mortgage protection. So that insurance policy is set aside to be enough money there to take care of your mortgage. There's insurance for final expense, where you say, I'm putting this plan together so that when I die, there's money to take care of my funeral, everything, the burial, the whole 9 yards, put me in style class. I want that's specifically for that. There's insurance if you are in the business. There's insurance to where you can have enough money there to buy out, your partnership, where people can keep the business alive if something happens to you. There's insurance that a lot of people on social media, raise your hand if you're on social media at all. Okay, have you ever heard of people talk about infinite banking? Be your own bank? Those are things that are true. That you can actually do with a cash value permanent policy, where you can overfund your life insurance policy and it builds up cash into the cash value that you can actually take and borrow from and use that money for whatever you want to use it for. Some people use it to buy property, to put into their other businesses. Some people use that money for tax-free retirement. Some people use that money later on in life for income. So insurance plays a big, important role. And a lot of times people, when you see insurance, think about, like, you see real estate and you see these big buildings when you go certain places, 9 times out of 10, you're going to find an insurance company somewhere. They ain't going nowhere because, like someone said earlier, we all have to die. But one of the things when we talk about insurance to people, it's not a fun subject sometimes, because people say, oh, insurance. They look at it like it's just a way to collect another payment. But it's so important, like they mentioned before, to have these conversations, because if you're not talking about the insurance, you're at risk of not knowing what's going on. I mean, you ain't gonna know, but your family is not gonna know what's going on. And if we can do anything to make it stress less on our family, it's already hard enough for you not being in the picture anymore. But what will they do if you're not here? What will they do? Have you ever thought about that? What is my family gonna do if I'm not in the picture? If my income is not a part of this equation, how are they going to go from this day to the next? What are my grandchildren going to do? What are my children? Think long term. We are not going to live here forever. We all want to go to heaven, but sometimes we don't want to do what it takes to get there. Amen? We got to die to get to the other side. And so when I talk to people, yes, insurance is important. Assurance is very important. But we want to make sure that if you have a policy, know what you have. Do a policy review with someone that you trust. If the person that sold you the policy, you can't reach them anymore, then get with a new person and talk about what you did. Sometimes, and you will be surprised how many times I've gone into a home and I sat down and they pull their policy out and they feel proud. Oh, I got $750,000. I'm only paying this a month, and they feel good. I'm covered, baby. No need to go into the discussion. And then we look at the policy, and it's only going to pay if they die due to an accident. And then it's like, well, no, wait a minute. And so what I do in that case, because if you got something good, I'm all about you keeping it. Because I don't want you to have to start over and it's going to cost you more money, because insurance is priced based on your age and your health. Okay, so if I'm sitting down with you and you got something good, I'm going to be the one to pat you on the back and say, don't change a thing. Keep that in place. Yes, ma'am.
If you have that AD&D, AD, whatever it's
No, it's gone. Yeah, it's kind of like, if you think about it, when you buy insurance on your on your car, you may never have a claim, but you still paying it. You say, well, what happened to all the money? You paid it. It's just what happens. Yes, ma'am.
It doesn't appear value like a regular life insurance.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't accumulate a cash value. Not to you. You don't get any value out of it. It's just like you have the coverage to take care of you should you need it. You have the peace of knowing that you covered if you die due to an accident. Now, I'm not against, just so you know, I'm not against having that type of coverage because in some age brackets, accidental death is the #1 cause of death. You know, there's car wrecks, and also accidental death is not just because of a car wreck. That's the one everybody think of. But accidental death could be that you fell and you died because of that fall. You could have took the wrong medication. I mean, it's so many different things that is accidental death. So there's nothing wrong with having that. You just need to know that that's what you have. Okay, and a lot of times we add on accidental death to a basic regular plan. Sometimes it's a rider and sometimes it's a separate policy. But when you have that, let's say you have a $50,000 policy, but it is a rider, it may double the value of the policy should you die due to an accident. So if you die for natural causes, $50,000. If you die due to an accident, $100,000. And a lot of people take that because it doesn't cost much. So if you have like a huge policy value and you're not paying much, you might want to take a look at what kind of policy it is. Okay, to just go back a little bit also on term insurance, just to give you an understanding of what is the difference. Term insurance can be compared to renting an apartment. You got a lease, you pay your rent, you're covered. But your lease has a certain time frame. Once that time frame is up, you're going to either renew your lease, start over, or you're moving out. So the term insurance, because of that, is usually cheaper in cost. So sometimes you say you can get more coverage for a less amount because it is only going to be covered for a certain time. Usually it's level for a certain time frame, whether it's 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, you have coverage for that time of your life. Now, some people have gotten it confused and they was excited. I sat down with a couple, they said, we got 5 years left on this term insurance, and they was excited. I said, what does that mean to you? And they said, we'll be done paying, we're covered. And I said, no ma'am, that means after 5 years, you don't have coverage. They were devastated. They were like, what? Wait a minute. I said, that's not how term insurance works. And the reason the term insurance is cheaper because most of the time they don't expect you to die in that time frame. It is a business. So they will give you a lot of coverage in a short time frame because they're hoping you live. You understand? They want you to live. And that's why the questions on the applications are more critical because they are examining your health. They want to make sure that you're good and healthy, that you can be approved for this term insurance so you can live past the term. Now, things do happen. God only knows when it's our exit. But because of that, that's why the questions in some cases are more stringent on a term insurance policy. You can get a final expense policy that you may see some of the commercials. They say no medical exam and few questions, just a few knockout questions. And those are more lenient only because they're not going to give you this $1 million policy. They're going to be more lenient, and they want to make sure that, of course, you got a certain level of health, but they're going to be a little more lenient for you so that you can have enough to take care of the final expenses. Final expenses includes, regardless if you're doing a cremation or if you're doing a full traditional funeral with the casket and the church or whatever you want to happen. There are people that do a combination of both. Some people have the regular casket in the church service, and then they turn into and do a cremation versus having the plot and burial. So all of that makes a difference in the amount of coverage that you get. Okay, now on the whole life, people say it all the time, it's whole life, but I tend to say permanent coverage. And the reason I say permanent coverage is because there's more than one type. And I'll come to that. Go ahead. I'll be back on that one.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I've been checking into it. A lot of people are telling me things about units. Everything's being done by units, not like it used to be back in the day.
Okay, a unit is basically like $1,000 of coverage. So when you see the commercial, I'm not going to mention any company names, $9.99, for a unit of insurance, and da 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 da, and people are excited. Oh, let me call that number. That's marketing. That's to get you to call that number, and they got some strong, skilled people over the phone that they're working to close you and sell you a policy. But a unit of insurance is $1,000 of coverage. So if you use their formula, 1 unit is 1,000. If you need 10,000 of coverage, you're gonna spend $100. They're not mentioning that part. But they'll just say, just for $9.99 a unit, you can have this coverage, no medical exam, and you're like, what's the number? And you dial it. But that's what a unit is. Yes, ma'am.
I don't remember the type of insurance that my great grandfather had in the past, but he lived to be 104. Insurance didn't cover because they say he lived past 100.
Exactly. So that is, well, actually, here's the thing. Things have changed. The people's time of living has changed. So it used to endow at age 100 for the permanent coverage, but now it goes to age 120. So when you have a permanent policy, now it was supposed to have paid him out at 100, but I don't know. But yeah, but even though he lived, so the policies that we have now, they go out to age 120 because people are living longer. So that is a good point, but because of that fact, they have extended it. So on that note, to tell you about permanent coverage is like buying a home. So the longer you have it, you're having more, you're building up cash value. And your home is equity. Like the longer you have your home, you build up equity. You can borrow from your equity. It's an asset to you. That's how it works on permanent insurance. So when you have a permanent policy, you're not worried about the price changing. In most cases, the permanent policy is stuck. It is what it is. And it's to cover you to the rest of your life. So you're not worried about what happens when I turn a certain age. I need to make some changes. Okay, it's permanent. And because of the features of a permanent policy, the cash value, the length, and all of everything that I said, it's going to be more expensive than a term. Okay, so understand if you're putting them side by side and you say, well, I'm going to compare a $50,000 plan on term and a $50,000 plan on permanent, the permanent is going to be more expensive because of the features. It's supposed to last longer. Okay, yes.
Once you become a certain age, the whole life permanent insurance is very, 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 very expensive. I know from the car that I purchased, I tried to get insurance on my car. They said, I'm too old. They gave me a certain amount of insurance on the car. Just that amount. And that was it.
So remember when I said that the cost of insurance is based on your age and your health? That is important. And the reason is because you got to think on the business side of insurance. They looking at how long did this person have to live? And they have their mortality rates and things that those people do. I don't do that side of it, but they have it already calculated based on your age and your particular health. They have a certain lifespan that they think, only God knows, but they have it calculated in their scientific way. But because of that, it can be more expensive. So that's why we always advise people to start young and while you're healthy. And I say that because a lot of times people get so comfortable with whatever their job is offering them, and they like, oh, I'm good, I'm covered by my job, I'm gonna be covered, I'm good. But what happens when you leave that job? What happens when you retire? I mean, it may not be that you got fired, it may not be that you quit. What happens when you retire? It depends on your line of work that you do, but a lot of times retirement, for a lot of people, they are excited about it, thinking about it, but when actually you get there, sometimes it can be scary because of the things that you are experiencing. You're like, oh my goodness. Now, but what some people have done is they learn at retirement age that insurance plan that they had from their employer is gone. So then they're like, I'm out here at this age trying to figure out what kind of plan can I get, and it's not comparable in price. one, a group plan is going to be cheaper because it's covering the whole group. And then two, even if it was identical, your age has changed from when you were starting on that job to now. So it's like as soon as you can get the information, it's always good to own a policy on your own. It's okay, take the benefits that come with your job, but own something so that whenever life changes for you, you own that and you've locked that price in. Yes, ma'am.
I've got a question. I'm a licensed agent too.
Okay, good.
I'm calling you anyway.
Okay, good.
Anyway, I just wanted to know from you,
Mm-hmm.
when is it a good time if you have a term policy to actually switch it over to a whole life?
Okay. Two things I want to say from that question. Let me first one repeat it. She's asking when is a good time to convert a term policy to something permanent. One, in most cases, you can do that. So some people didn't know that was possible. Yes, you can do that. And it depends on the company that you're with, because some companies don't have anything to convert into because they only sell term. So if you're in that kind of company, you're going to have to just start a whole different policy. What a conversion means with a company that does have something that you can convert to, you're not having to go through any type of medical questions about your health. Your health could actually have declined. They're not checking your health, but because you locked it in at a certain time, they'll go by your same health. So if you got standard rates, you will continue to have standard rates, but you will pay the difference in price based on your age. Okay? So, and as far as that goes, certain companies have different rules. So some companies will say you need to do this conversion before age 65. Some people say in your last 5 years, you have that's your last time. You don't wait till the 5 years are there. So it varies based on the person's situation. It's not a cookie cutter answer for me because it depends on the person's situation. Because there is going to be a monetary change in your premium when you convert from term to permanent. If you're not financially ready to pay the difference, I'm not recommending it, because I want you to keep the policy in place. But I don't want you to lose the benefit of having something permanent, because should you have to start over, it's going to take everything into consideration. So if your health did decline, when you're starting over, all of that comes into play. They're looking at you had breast cancer 5 years ago, thank God you recovered, but it's on your record. Okay, did someone else have a question? It depends. Okay, all right. I look forward to that. Yes, ma'am.
I do want to say, if you are still employed, to make sure you check with your benefits package. I work at Baylor, and the last 2 years, they just switched over.
Okay.
When we retire now, we can buy our own, and we can continue that insurance.
Good.
And so some companies is doing that for you. Just make sure you check with your benefits package each year when you renew.
Yes.
You may have that option. And also, when you do those employee surveys, they're asking you, do you want this as a benefit?
Yes.
Make sure you answer that.
Please do. And like she said about reviewing, that is so important with the company and on your own. Just because you did the right thing for this moment and you got signed up for a plan, do an annual review at least. Because things change in your life, the family changes, and you need to know what it is that you signed up for. Because at the time you felt like it was the right thing, but later on in life, it might not have been what you really need for that time of your life. So make sure that your plan is keeping up with you. Have a trusted person that is going to be honest with you. And I will say this, I know I have another question. On that QR code, I'm going to go back and I'll get in touch with whoever it is, but I'll pick out 2 people to win for the sake of Mother's Day, a $25 cash app or Zelle, okay? So if you're filling out the form, we're going to do a drawing, and I'll send it to whoever I need to to let you know. Go ahead. You had a question? Oh, okay. Okay, go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
I have one term and a whole life is with 2 different companies. Now, I understand you said that you usually don't convert unless it's the same company. Also has a whole life policy.
Okay, so
I have a term for life insurance, and I have a whole life, but it's 2 different companies.
yes. So
So you're saying that you usually don't convert term to whole unless that company has.
so the company that you have the term with, do they offer? Okay. If that particular company does not offer anything permanent that you can convert to, then you just have to let that term run out. because they don't have any options for you. But companies that have both, you can convert it over. And you can discuss that with the company to see what is it, how much can I convert, how much does it cost, and they'll do a quote for you to determine how much would it cost to convert this over to something permanent. I will tell you that I've sat in front of a lot of people in their 70s and they're starting over. And because they had a 20-year term when they were in their 50s. 20 years is over with, and let me let you understand, when I say a 20-year term, that means that price was leveled for that 20 years. After that, the price, if your term continues, it will be going up every year. And to the point you like, I was paying $50, now they saying next year I gotta pay $200 a month. No, we ain't doing that, right? That's the attitude I get. But you have to sit down, and I unfortunately have to be the one to tell people, you're not going to get that same $200,000 for $50 now. It's going to be different. Why? Because your age and your health. And then the type of insurance, because if we're looking at something permanent, then that's another reason why it's going to change. So then we have to evaluate, is this how much coverage do you really need? Like, what do you really need? Back then, maybe you did need, a larger amount of coverage, but what do you need now? And what can you afford now? Having something is better than nothing. Have you ever been asked by anybody to help contribute to someone's final expenses? Amen? All the time. Has anyone ever asked you to help with a GoFundMe? I heard you say it. It's there. GoFundMe is not life insurance. And you know what? I had someone that we knew, I knew they were serious because, some people take advantages of these times. But this particular family, I knew they had to be serious because the individual said, here is the number to the funeral company, call them and send the money to them. And then I knew they were serious because they weren't trying to pocket any of the money. But some people's funerals are held up because they don't have the funds. So like my counterpart had said earlier, action time is now. It's a sad thing to go so far and think you're covered and not know. Don't think know. Know you're covered. Amen? Amen. So I wanted to make sure that I address the different types of insurance. To talk about briefly, what you've heard on social media, index, universal life, IULs. Some of y'all have heard about that, and they say, oh, I got one for my granddaughter, and this has happened. Index, universal, L, life, IULs. That is one of the methods that has been, it's not brand new, it's just that we're seeing it a lot now on social media. The indexing part, it actually mirrors what the market does without you being in the stock market. And what that is saying is, it's showing you how your cash value is going to grow. So remember I talked about that permanent policy that's accumulating value for you? You're wondering, well, how is it growing? But if it's tied to the index, you actually get the benefits of when the market goes up, and when the market goes down, you're safe. Your money isn't dropping. And so that's the benefit of having that instrument. So it's a vehicle. So if you got three ways the arrow can move your money, one is up, one is down, and one is staying the same, you just eliminate that bottom arrow. So your money goes up, and when the market goes down, your money stays the same, you good, right? Wouldn't we all like to be in that place? So that's how it works when you talk about indexing. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Mm-hmm. No, I didn't. Go ahead. Okay. All right, two things. Pre-need is a plan that you can have in place where you're actually purchasing your funeral in today's dollars, because we don't know the time of the day or the hour, but you're basically picking out everything that you want. And I know sometimes people have an eerie feeling, looking at the caskets and different things, but it's you picking out your funeral and putting the plan together and paying for it now in today's dollars. Because if you've been around for a little bit, you already know it's going up and going up. So if you can lock in that price in today's dollars, whenever that time come, it's a burden lifted off of your family members to just say, mama had it together, daddy had it together, auntie had it together, sister had it together, brother had it together. The funeral, the funeral directors will follow the leads. Now, there may be some areas where you can change some things, but it's paid for, and that's beneficial to you. And if you are doing a pre-need, just make sure that it's backed up by an insurance policy. And I say that because if it's not backed up, you only get what you've paid for. And if you didn't finish paying for it, you don't have much. Okay, yes, sir.
I have a pre-need, the only thing that didn't cover was the close, opening and closing.
Yeah, you just, yeah. Go ahead.
Great, that's a funeral home charge, fee, and it goes up, like right now, I think it's like $2,500 to only close a grave. Even if you own a grave that you own.
If you own the plot.
And the funeral home charges that, the insurance, the funeral home can't regulate that, so the cemetery.
That's, yeah.
The cemetery, that's their fee, so whatever it is, like they charge more if you do it on Saturdays. versus
Yeah.
if you do it through the week, so, yep, that's a cemetery charge.
Yeah.
Even if you own a grave, you're gonna have to pay, and it's ridiculous, I think it's a ridiculous price, I think over $50, but
Okay. Yes, okay, I'm gonna come right back. Yes, ma'am.
Now that, Mr. Moore had mentioned that, on the life insurance, does that not cover that, or,
The life insurance covers everything. Because the life insurance is basically money that they give you, you can do whatever you want with it. So it will, if you have a plan, a proper plan in place, if you have enough in your life insurance, it can take care of all of that.
so, the suggestion that you had stated earlier, that send a policy, whatever, send it straight to the funeral home, and so the funeral home will do what they need to do, and if anything is left over.
Now, I didn't make that suggestion. I'm just clear that up. This is why, because it's a business. You have to change it over to the business mindset, because a lot of times when you sit in front of the funeral director and don't start getting loose lips, they sink ships. Don't tell them everything you got. That insurance is yours. And to be honest with you, you can, there are companies where you can buy the casket wholesale and they deliver within 24 hours. You do not have to buy the casket at the funeral home. Okay? Because those things are skyrocket and they make money. So one of the things that you could do, you could actually go and do all your whole plan, and then at the end say, well, I'm going to do my casket elsewhere. Because they've already laid down your pricing. And then you can take that off the list and say, I got this other place where I'm actually doing what I'm going to do, and it saves you money, because that alone costs a lot of money. So just know that you can do that. So what I say to you is find out how much everything is going to cost. And then if you have an active life insurance policy in place, there's a form that you actually sign for that portion that you agreed to pay for the funeral expenses. That's the only thing that they get. And then the rest of the life insurance will be sent to you, the proceeds, to you, to the beneficiary. Okay? You had a question?
Well, I was just going to say, they were talking about the opening and closing.
Mm-hmm.
And he was telling that he wasn't allowed to do that when he did the barrel and everything, because he said it was going up. So they had to do it at the time of, demise or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But I am in the process of paying my brother's burial.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm already paying, I'm also paying on his opening and closing.
Mm-hmm.
In Nebraska, so I don't know, if we can't do it here, I can do it there.
Well, different places have different, rules. So it depends on your, the funeral, the cemetery that you're using, the funeral home that you're using to see, and also that's a whole different jurisdiction. I don't know what their state allows. Everybody has, even the prices are different. Like here, even in Texas alone, if you in a certain part of Texas, the final expenses for you may be totally different than another part, depending on where you are. Like some people say, oh, it ain't that much, my plot only cost me this, and they're in a small little town, and then you go into the city, big, rural area, everybody's there, and it's a bigger, yeah. It's just, it's based on location and things of that nature. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, absolutely. Did you have a question? I'll come back. I'm coming back. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. You can talk to the funeral home that you're doing the pre-need with, and if it's something that you saw that you want to replace, I mean, while it's going on, y'all can make arrangements to do whatever you need to do. You can do. You can do it now if you know that that's something that you want to do. You can just communicate with them and see, like, can I allocate what I've paid to go toward this? Like, you should be able to talk to them about any kind of adjustments. Talk to them about it and see, like, say what you've already paid. Not saying you're going to get any money back, but whatever you've already paid, see if you can move that money toward something else. Because they have funeral, they got their fees, director fees, you got if you're getting embalmed, it's the list goes on and on about what you're paying for. Okay. Well, if she's not paying anything, it's just her wishes. It's almost like what I just gave you. She's telling you what she wants, but when you start paying on it, you're paying for the funeral in itself. Okay, so real quickly, she wanted me to address Universal Life. Universal Life came on the scene some years after Whole Life did. I like to look at it like a universal remote control. Y'all remember those? You can adjust it to work for different TVs. So when you have a universal life insurance policy, it can actually perform like a term policy. It actually can perform like a whole life policy, how it's set up. So that's why it's got flexibility in it. So when people are using universal policies, it depends. When I put together, because it can be shaped however I want it to be, I'm talking to the customer and I'm identifying what their need is. So if they're wanting it to be like a permanent, then I'm making sure that it has enough fuel to last for the rest of their life. But also on a universal policy, you can make changes. So the whole life is like you're locked in, this is my price, I'm covered for the rest of my life. Universal has flexibilities. So one, you have the option of saying, I want my death benefit to increase over time. Or you can say, I want my death benefit to stay the same. When it's increasing over time, your death benefit is actually what's in your cash value plus the regular death benefit. So if you had a $100,000 policy and your your cash value is accumulating and you chose that option, then you'll see on your ledger, you'll say 100,000, 105, 100, you'll see your death benefit increasing so that when you do pass, whatever's in your cash value accumulation will actually go to your beneficiary along with that 100,000. Now, if you went in and took from it, then that's not going to be there. But that's an option that you have. Another option that you have is that you can actually overfund it. Meaning if your agent says, well, this is $150 a month, and you say, hey, I want to pay more into it so that my cash can accumulate more, then I want to pay $300 a month so that money can be going in there, accumulating and building up my cash value. You do have those options as well. In a universal policy, whereas in some of the other policies, you can't do those type of things. There's a lot of things that are flexible with it, so I don't want to confuse you, but there are some things that we can change. We can change the death benefit, we can change how much you put in it, and worst case scenario, if things, you came across a hard time, you can pay the minimum amount to keep that policy alive. Like you say, well, I was paying $150, but right now I can only pay $75. If you're in that range, it will keep your policy alive, then we can drop the payment down. And that's a universal policy. The difference between that and an index universal policy is how the cash is accumulating. The indexing that I explained, how it mirrors the market, that's the IUL. The universal doesn't have that indexing going on. The coverage amount? Well, once you lock in, let me think about it, how I want to answer that.
I ask because I worked like I retired from my gym.
Uh-huh.
Retired, I was able to keep my policy, but I paid the premiums.
Okay.
So they gave me the option. The premiums go up as I age. So I had the option, if I don't want to pay that higher premium, I could lower the coverage and get a different premium.
Usually at retirement, they do that because they're not going to, they're not going to fund it anymore. So they give you a chance, before you leave. They say you can take this policy and pay this higher amount, or if you're trying to, pay lower amount, they'll do that at that transition. Does it make sense? Okay. They'll do that for you at that time because it's going to be cheaper, like I said before, before retirement, because you got a group plan. Yes, yes.
Is it possible to get insurance on elderly?
Yes. Yeah, I can insure, I have companies that we can insure from ages 0 to 89.
Not 89 the term ends?
No, 89 meaning they can start the policy at 89. Yeah.
Is it more expensive?
Yes. So you may not want to get as much, coverage, but you can still get someone 89 years old, they can start a policy. It doesn't mean it is, they got coverage to age 120, but they can start it at 89. All of it is. It's always going to be based off of age and health. But the thing is, you can still get it. Some people think they're not insurable. I've been able to get, because I am independent, I don't just work for one company as far as insurance go. I work with several companies. So I've been able to help people that have been HIV positive, AIDS, cancer, and these are on the extreme ends, but I've been able to get them a plan in place. As well as perfectly healthy people, of course, that's easier, but sometimes people think they can't get coverage, and you can. I've had people that were on dialysis, just various situations that we can actually find a plan for you. As far as when she said, something you said made me think about it. When you say, can I get a policy on someone, you got to have an insurable interest. You can't just say, oh, my neighbor getting sick, let me go and get a plan on her. You got... You will be surprised how many people have called me with a loved one in the hospital. They like, oh, you don't look good. Insurance lady, my auntie in here, can we get a plan? You got to have insurable interest. Like, what is it going to be? How are you going to be at a loss if that person is not here? Yes, ma'am. Say that one more time. No, there are some plans that you can do. If it's your grandchild, your child, you can get them covered without their parents' consent on I have a couple of plans that you can do, like a child whole life policy, and you can get them covered because you have insurable interest as their grandparent. They can get up to $75,000. Now, there are some other types of plans where the parent does have to consent, but there are plans where the parent does not have to consent. Yes. On the ones that need a consent, just one parent is needed. But we do have plans that don't need a parent consent, okay? And it's very, very affordable. It doesn't cost that much at all. Yes?
If you do something like that, can you have it to where it's all combined?
What all is combined?
Because I know when I try, like for my daughter, my grandson, they was like, oh, I have to do this separate, this one separate, this one separate. So it's like they was talking about, like I had like 4 different
Policies. Okay.
I can just have one policy for the whole umbrella.
Well, there's 2 things I would say. If you're doing a rider, like you got a policy on yourself and you have a child rider, the rider is saying you have this much for each of the children, and it's riding on your policy. So it's pros and cons to that. The con to that is if something happened to you, they got a small window of time that something needs to be put in place, or they're not going to have coverage. If you have an individual policy on them, then they got coverage regardless of, period. There's no changing. Because on those riders, they can only be on there for a certain time. They can't ride forever. When they get a certain age, they got to fall off. Now, you can get a child, let's say you got 8 grandkids and you say, well, I want to do them. It's one application. You can put 8 on there, but you will get 8 policies. Okay, so I hope I answered your question.
I was trying to get everything all under one umbrella.
Yeah,
I wanted a payment for this, payment for that, everything. It was just
yeah, yeah. But if you do it as a rider, they can ride on it, but again, they fall off at a certain age. Depending on what different companies have. Some of them fall off at 21, yes. Okay, time is up for me, y'all. If y'all have any more questions, thank you for that. Any more questions, please reach out. I love to answer your questions. And then I will get in touch with you and let you know who won the drawings. And happy Mother's Day to everybody.
One of our presenters, she has a nosebleed, so we're just gonna get her checked out. So sorry for the distraction. Where are we? It's time for lunch? Okay. Oh, Mims has some thank yous. Okay. As everyone did their evaluations, thank you again for all of our presenters today. Thank you for being here, taking time with us today. I did want to ask, do you have any other questions or concerns about a DNR before we close? Any other questions or concerns about a medical power of attorney? Okay, sounds good. Sounds like everybody got clarity on that. If you still have questions, we're going to be here forever until the Lord take us home. So you know our number, so give us a call. And I do want to stress, don't be afraid of a medical power of attorney. Pick someone you trust to make those decisions for you. And just know that if you are sick and you're still in your right mind, you are still able to dictate your own medical care. This is in case you cannot do it. And let me just give you an example. Yesterday, I had a patient. He was sweet as he could be. He was just telling all kind of jokes. But from one minute I walk in the room to the next time I come, he kept forgetting what we talked about, okay? I could not let him sign his consent forms because he had treated himself for a procedure he was supposed to have 2 weeks ago. He had on his diagnoses dementia. They were still letting him make his own medical decision. You cannot do that legally. I am legally bound not to let you sign a consent form if I know you are not in your right mind. Ladies and gentlemen, the time to make that decision is now. If you have any questions about a person's mental capacity, have that conversation with them while they can still make a decision, still determine who they want to represent them, because it is a whole nother beast when they cannot make decisions for themselves and they come to the hospital. I'm not talking about when they die. I'm saying when they come to the hospital, cannot make decisions for themselves. Someone has to make that decision. In the case of an extreme emergency, 2 physicians will make that decision for you. You don't want that to happen to your loved ones. And we all know when our moms and dads start slipping and forgetting stuff. Oh, see, I forgot. I'm almost 64. Sometimes I walk in the kitchen and say, now what I come in here for? Okay, I'm doing that now. But seriously, when people start to forget and start to forget where they put their medicine and forget where they put their teeth and forget where they put this, that's the time to figure out what's going on with them. Don't wait too late, okay? We really appreciate your attentiveness. We have lunch boxes prepared for you. Do you have any final words for us, Sister Finley?